All right. Welcome to the DJM podcast. You've got your temporary host, who's the most, just replacing you, Genius 10. But to my left, we've still got Bedders, and to my right, we've got Nye. And there's no point in me doing the slogan because I'm the head of this shit today, innit?
Well, but you already have though. You just changed your slogan. The host with the most, yeah.
Oh my god, the host of the most, you know. Listen,
I don't know.
He's trying to get this job full time.
I don't know. H-E double, the host with the most. You know how I boast. Wait, what do you mean?
I prefer Pastor Hezz to be
Oh,
fair.
louder Pastor Hezz.
Pastor Hezz.
That should be, you know.
That's a better ring to it. You'll find out a bit more why Pastor Hezz later on.
Nah, mate, you won't.
He's got a big following, massive conglomerate.
Yo, your offerings please at DJM podcast. Nah, message. Alright, so today we're going to go for a little bit of an informative field because, like you know, elections are coming around the corner. In fact, it's this Thursday, isn't it?
12th.
Or Thursday the 12th. So we're going to try and do our best to help you kind of be a little bit more informed and relatively so we can make the right decisions as a people, because we don't want to get bamboozled the same way we did with Brexit and that. But before we really get into it, just want to say a big congratulations to Jossa. He's just had a baby, healthy, everything's cool. And yeah, prayers and wishes to the best and all the rest, and he'll be back soon. So, Brexit, on top of that, elections, boys. Let's go through some of the things that we probably find concern-wise and probably go through a couple of top policies. I mean, I'm not going to do things like on guesswork. I'm going to be putting my head down for the phone and whatever because I want to make sure that the facts are there, but the open conversation is going to kind of flood around those things. So, let's run through them then, boys. So, Conservatives, some of their top points that they've got is to bring back the withdrawal agreement bill to Parliament before Christmas to achieve Brexit by the end of January. For those people that don't know what that is, it's basically so they can complete the deals, get Brexit done and dusted, and then we are out of the EU. Long story short. 20.5 billion additional funding for the NHS England by 2023 to 24, and 50 million more GP appointments and 50,000 more nurses, which is promising because our healthcare system is in dire straits. 20,000 more police officers over the next 3 years in England and Wales. Not sure how the man didn't feel about that one, but we've got to do it, right? We've got to do it. No rises in income tax, national insurance contributions or VAT for the people that earn relatively a decent amount of money, or even just a little bit, just keeping things the way that they are. No, proposed cuts or anything like that, or funding other projects. We're going to keep things relatively the same, and introduce an Australian-style points-based immigration system, which treats everybody equally regardless of where they come from. Not necessarily a bad thing, but
Limits certain people, doesn't it?
yeah, but probably the right way, or more to the point, in a more objective fashion, instead of probably what we've got now, which has been a main concern of a lot of people that live here. So, Labour-wise,
Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah, Jeremy Corbyn.
Head of the party.
Word.
What is it? 400 billion for National Transformation Fund,
Yep.
including 250 billion for energy, transport and the environment, and a further 150 billion for schools and hospitals and housing. We've got another one of their main points, 75 billion for 100,000 new council homes a year by 2024, and 50,000 affordable homes a year through housing associations. Obviously, homelessness is a massive thing.
Big.
Houses always needed. You need a roof over your head, so I think that could be only a good thing. Free full fibre broadband for every home and businesses in the UK by 2030.
Yo.
If you're on the broadband hype, then great for you, but if you can't afford it, it's kind of pointless, isn't it?
Sounds like a sales pitch to me, but
What else we got? £10 minimum hour wage for all workers. So I don't know what's the current minimum wage, like £7.
£7 something, £7.50 or something like that. Something like that.
And hold another referendum on Brexit. So obviously, if they come into power, they're going to look to put out the public vote for Brexit again, whether it's leave or remain. But I think they're a strong advocate for remaining, keeping those trading rules open.
Cool. So then we've got Lib Dem. We'll probably do only one more after this one as well, because it's relatively the same theme throughout a lot of them for their main points. But We've got Joe Swanson for the Lib Dems to stop Brexit, so which the party argues will release money to spend on public services over the next 5 years. To what amount we don't know, but that sounds like a very inviting prospect, and it probably opens the door on a lot of things that have probably gone wrong with this whole Brexit negotiation. 20 billion a year for 5 years to tackle climate change. Once again, some people still don't think that's important, but given how summers are kind of lasting longer than they should do, and winters are kind of going on a bit longer than they should, I think it's about time we start taking that a bit serious. 1p rise to income tax to invest in health and social care, allowing NHS budget to be increased by 26 billion a year by 2023 and 24. What's interesting about this is it seems realistic. So where people are saying that they're not going to do anything as far as like kind of like tax or VAT or anything like that to kind of improve a lot of our services, it's an unrealistic ask for us to not contribute into the betterment or change of our existing services, which means that at any point if they decide, oh actually we want to put that money somewhere else, then the likelihood is it could happen like that. But if we are kind of spending that, then there's an obligation to kind of see that through, and therefore they'll have to really kind of inform us to a level which they probably wouldn't had they gone the other way. So that one is super important, and it sounds more believable in that kind of essence than any other. But then, once again, they expand to say they recruit 20,000 more teachers and increase school funds by 10.6 billion a year by 2024-25, and 130 billion investment in infrastructure. So once again, we're looking at kind of, well, infrastructure can cover, like, say, one or two things. So we could look at, say, for example, property development. We can look at what we're, like, the foundations of kind of Britain to make sure that we can have more accommodation, anything like that. And also infrastructure to, say, for example, transport, even down to the way that the teaching structure is, everything to do with how things are kind of run, making sure the right people are in the right places to ensure that, like, development can actually go ahead. But yeah, that's how Lib Dems are shaping up.
There is one final thing that I thought was interesting. Obviously, if you guys are not interested in politics, I would suggest at least getting into it this week, so you can kind of shape the future of Britain. But who's that we just talked about? Lib Dems?
Lib Dems, yeah.
Under their policy, they're trying to legalise cannabis. So I don't know if there's any views out there that blaze continually or occasionally, but that can only be a good thing. However, my only point on this, and it does get political, FYI, a massive FYI, the UK, I apparently read, is one of the major contributors to exports of cannabis, but at the same time, legislation states that it's illegal to be in possession or use it. So,
which is a counter. Yeah, it's counter.
There's obviously money there to be made to be put into the economy, else they wouldn't try and legalise cannabis. So I don't know whether that's a tactical ploy to get people on board, or if it's something that everybody should be implementing anyway. But if you can increase the money that you can put into your economy by such a well-used substance, you may as well do it, man.
Might as well use it.
It's true, but let's face it, right? Like, we've associated it with things like crime, drug dealing, all the rest of it. Now, there's now an opportunity or an avenue or a lane as such to not only legitimise this as a genuine business article. That means that all these guys that are like trapping, doing all the rest of the need to do to kind of sell this stuff, if you get into it legitimately, there is a business opportunity that you can seriously thrive off.
You're that master gardener.
Yeah, for real, you get you grow on for real, or even then, like, instead of like trapping that, become a salesman and push that. You can probably move that internationally once everywhere else comes on board. So it's a little bit bigger than the banter, but just think about it, it'll cut crime.
I wonder if that will affect people that are imprisoned for such charges.
You know what it should do? And the reason why I say that is because it is hypocritical. There's no point in people that are serving these stupid sentences for something that we've then legalised. Like,
you know, I can see it though. You know, because of the time of when the crime actually happened, they'll stick them with legislation.
Yeah.
They would never go back and overturn those sentences.
It makes no sense because it's true, but then it's a waste of resource, isn't it? Like, they're still paying a certain amount, or they're paying millions on people that have got these like kind of like low-end crimes, like, or even white-collar crimes, for what? Like, for something that eventually is going to make more and then give back to the economy, you might as well put these guys back on the street and then help us improve our economy. Like it swings and roundabouts. Like if your ego isn't there, then you just got to do the right thing. But
overall, they're still contributing, aren't they? They're in
Yeah.
the prison system, so we're paying taxpayers, we're paying people, third parties to look after them.
It's
Feed
wild.
them, house them. It's all the money game. But
It's wild.
we digress.
Yeah. So we'll touch on this one for the last one, because I ain't even going to read Brexit parties. Call me a hater, I don't care. But Green Party. So, and before I get into this one, right, I would say that pretty much a lot of people would view the Green Party as the party that they would probably like to be with, but given how the state of play is, it's a little bit of a weird place to kind of like trust into a lot of their policies. However, they've got some good policies nonetheless. So to kickstart things, they've got 100 billion a year for a decade to tackle climate change and mainly paid for by borrowing. So that's interesting. Net zero carbon emissions in UK by 2030. Pursuing a Green New Deal, including structural transformation of the way that economy works. Create more than 1 million new jobs through green investment and introduce people's vote to bill to implement another referendum on Brexit. And will the campaign remain? Now, once again, these are all things that look like they have the heart of kind of how Britain is going to move on as like a whole entire like nation. How the infrastructure is going to change and kind of move with the times and be able to be more of a renewable entity, so that therefore it can then be a little bit kind of like better and self-sufficient. But there's a crisis that's happening right now that needs to be kind of addressed, and the only thing that really addresses any of that is once again the referendum part, the Green New Deal. So the structural transformation to make sure things are kind of renewed and the version control is a lot better. So they're the ones that I guess I'm gonna read for now. But Mandem, anything that's kind of struck a chord or things that you've...
There's a great sales pitch from everyone, but
always is though, isn't it?
realistically, where's all this money coming from? Where these people are saying billions and whatever for the next few years, nobody's being realistic about where these P's are coming from.
They're alluding to the fact of taxation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Penny tax.
They've got to say that. At least they're being honest with you.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to be a penny, but at least you know you're losing something. The other two, they're just, this money's just going to appear from fresh air, apparently.
And that's the part that concerns me.
It's very concerning.
In my view, though, they should be looking at kind of the causes and effects of like crime, or the most prominent key factors of contribution to crime. I'm talking like a politician now. Fuck you, hell. Yeah, so the main things that influence crime, such as like alcohol, I think that's massive on the agenda, on anyone's agenda. So I think they should increase the taxes on alcohol. Potentially cigarettes, I don't think they have any health benefits other than reducing stress and then causing cancer. So I think they should. I know they've done that previously in terms of increased taxing, but if you have like an issue, predominantly the UK, you go anywhere in Europe and the UK or citizens are associated with lager house, right? Getting pissed off, mashing up the place. So that's ingrained in us, not that mentality, but the use of that drug. So why not increase taxes and you're going to get the pennies to make the billions?
It's true.
But
But see, now the thing that I think about when you say stuff like that is once again the risk of there being another prohibition almost. So if the taxes are that homogeneous, you then start to get the people that like kind of develop their own kind of crime scheme in order to have, like, say for example, cheaper alternatives or cheaper alcohol, whether they're making it in like the not so great way or regulated way, and then kind of shotting it on the street. So therefore we're taking away one crime element and then putting another one back into the ecosystem.
But in terms of like taxation, I'm not saying like pounds and pounds, like 10p.
Like how they do with sugar tax and stuff like that.
Not to that extreme, but if you're trying to recoup money from somewhere, look at the most negative effects in society and kind of pinpoint where you can obtain additional funding from.
Yeah, true. And once again, I can't stress enough the use of language like penny tax is a large step towards the reality of something like that happening, instead of oh, we're just gonna pluck the money out from campaign funds and all the rest of it, like all the other things that we've took tax off over the years, or check the treasury once again, and this is what we've got if we don't go ahead with Brexit, da-di-da-di-da, and then apply it, which once again would kind of say that the wrong message about Brexit has always been in play, which opens up a massive can of worms. But at this stage, I think we've got to be ready for it. Excuse me. Jeez.
In regards to parties, then, I mean, who do you think you kind of are heading towards your vote?
Personally, I'd say probably. What's that? I'm mad. I was about to say. It's like, yo, you better vote for my party. But if I had to really go, I'd say it's probably between Labour and probably Lib Dem. The only reason why I say Labour is because if it is down to majority like it always is, and they have, between Conservatives and Labour, they have always got two of the strongest followings in this whole entire country. So if it turns out that we have to go for the lesser of either out of the two in order to kind of almost backtrack on Brexit, and I know that's a big shot to democracy, I feel that at this stage it probably has to be done. You get me?
Labour or Lib Dem for me. Whoever's looking to put back into the youth sector and make big differences about who are going to be the leaders of tomorrow, because there's been massive undercuts in youth development over the past few years. And I know somebody said about putting such and such amount of teachers back in schools, but I think it goes way past just that. I think there needs to be something done with outside of school in terms of what young people are actually doing and want to do. So money needs to be put back into youth sectors, get more youth workers, get more mentors, get more people outside of just the teaching, because it's more than just about maths and English.
This will speak to the infrastructure change, like literally going through a full rebuff of how that whole entire business of school is affecting basically affecting the children and the people that work in it, because at the moment it just seems like a numbers game. Like
kids are commodities right now. A lot of young people can't handle how society wants them to be educated right now. A lot of kids are out of school, or they're in school and they're sat outside of class or in another place. I was speaking to somebody at school, and she said their child's in school for 2 hours a day. Now, what are you meant to learn in 2 hours a day when you're 14?
No.
That's just a box ticking thing from the school to say, all right, you've come
registering and just leaving.
You might as well go for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like, what are you learning there? Like, they've just got them in a room.
It is more so about the quality of the teaching and the actual subjects as well. I can remember going back, not even that long ago, 15 years, I think I left school now. Some of the subjects are insufficient. They're not needed. I don't use them in everyday life. I need teaching in regards to taxation. I need classes in regards to housing benefits, potentially, how to organise your money, mortgage lending,
things that affect your everyday life.
Things that you're going to use when you go out into the real world and apply it, as opposed to Pythagoras' rule. Ask me when have I ever used it.
Trigonometry and
never,
and stuff like that.
Send me those booklets and I'll throw them away. They're not relative to my place in the world at the moment. Not saying that they won't be ever relative, but
maybe they will come back in. But you're right. You ain't using those.
It needs to be more structured, and especially a lot to do with mental health as well. That needs to be integrated into the educational system.
True. I mean, they kind of do that now anyway. But there does need to be a stronger look on it, just to repair everybody. You know, get people in the right space of mind to actually talk about their space of mind.
No, not just to be. Do you know what I mean? Just to not have pent up anger and just communicate effectively.
Yeah, it's true. Well, either way on that then. So
just again, sorry, bro.
Yeah, go on.
I'm gonna. I'll follow suit.
Yeah, do
the Dems and Labour is my. Predominantly, I've always voted for Labour. Because that's kind of working class family that I grew up from. The Labour Party seem to give the impression that they're for the people.
Yeah.
The Lib Dems, they from the manifesto that I've read, and you guys can read it as well. We'll post a link. They have some good foresight and direction. So it's between those two.
Yeah. No, at the end of the day, like, stay more informed. Like, don't let this be another situation like Brexit where people are fed a whole bunch of propaganda, and then because of the the demographic which they've attacked, decisions were made in passionate forms instead of being like all emotive. Like, make sure that you're looking into absolutely everything. We'll do our due diligence to post a link that we found very informative. It kind of helps break down everything. As well as that, shout out to BBC Nottingham, Genius, he was there literally last week. They had a debate where they kind of asked all the important questions as a community, which kind of which affects you directly. So get onto BBC Nottingham. We'll post a link into the thread for that. So all the information that you're going to need about Thursday, we're going to make sure we get that to you and do our best to kind of do a public service on that. So that aside, we'll transition a little bit kind of into that, because you man are on this Pastor Hezz thing. Even though I'd be a lit pastor, but I won't do it for the wrong reasons. Even though, to be fair, some of these pastors are making peas.
He's already gassing himself up.
No.
Off camera, we posed it to him, and he's like, no.
He did not want Pastor Hezz.
Pastor Hezz got a ring to him,
Nah, I didn't say that. That's what you said. What? I ain't trying to be no one's pastor. Listen, it'll make my great grandmother proud, but I can see
you in church, Like USA, American flirting.
You said you have the church shoes, don't it? You still got the church shoes.
Yo,
With that little skank
Yo, you know like the Pentecostal churches run where like they say, oh yeah, come to get healed in that. Tutus, you're healed in the name of the Lord. People dropping all over. We've been fainting in that. Nah, bro. Yeah, dude, allow it. No, I can't do me like that. That's out of order.
I seen that, last week.
What, from me? I was about to say,
a couple of weeks ago when I was mentoring in London, was walking back from McDonald's, and there was 3 people outside McDonald's. One was on his knees praying. The other guy was, I don't know what the word was, but he was praying for him. Loudly. Saying, you're healed, devil, leave you now. Like,
drop down, rolling.
Exorcism.
Mad things.
It was about 10:30 at night, and I was in shock.
I said 10:30 at night.
Shock.
Yo, this could have been anyone.
No, he had his McDonald's uniform, so I don't know why it was there, but it was mad.
That's why. I don't know how that, if I saw something like that on the street, but the reason why we're bringing all this up is, as of recent, there's been a little bit of controversy over a group called SPAC Nation. Now, if anyone has ever heard of this, it's kind of like your typical kind of like black run church. Their mission statement is relatively they're taking people off the streets, giving them like the best opportunity to win at life, and kind of making sure that they are kind of above what their old life would represent. Now, sounds all well and good, but they've been turning over like millions of pounds, something like 1.7 mil. But say for example 1.6 is kind of relatively unaccounted for to where it's going to, so it all just looks like a massive scam. So yeah, I mean, you know quite a bit.
I watched a few of the documentaries and I was amazed. Obviously, what they're trying to do is say the infrastructure is great. Come and repent for your sins. We'll forgive you. We'll give you a place to live. We'll house and clothe you. But some of the houses that they're living in are like Premiership footballers' houses.
Mad thing.
Some of the clothes they're wearing, high-end fashion. But he had on lubes. Toby. Pastor Toby had the lubes on. And the sick Louis V shirt. He was dressed from head to toe in designer. And I've never met a pastor like that.
But
where's this money coming from? Obviously, people hand in, but
I get that it's nice luxury, but what message are you actually trying to put out there?
The riches of the Lord. I don't know.
But if you're going out there and you're preaching, but you've got LV and Gucci and whatnot on, like,
look what you can have.
Look what you can have if you give your soul to me.
And you're preaching to the converted up as well, aren't you? So
yeah, because he's going to come out
to you like, okay, this is representing what your image is representing my old life.
Yes.
So I'm still on that kind of mind.
I can still get the same things without selling any form of drugs. I'm now a pastor. He's a pastor, Pastor Hezz. He's told me I can still get Gucci, Louis V, have whatever I want, but I've got to give my soul to the Lord. But who's paying the bills to this £1 million complex that I'm now living in? So for me, even though it sounds great, it's definitely a bit of a front for some other illegal activities.
Not taking away any of the positive that they do.
Yeah,
because obviously
there's a lot of
they're doing
positives.
great things, but you got to be accountable to where that money is coming from, big man. And if the tax man comes knocking and you can't justify it, it's not going to be a happy ending, is it?
See, now the thing is, like, I want to ask the questions, but in some ways I don't. Because if you're doing that well to get people off the roads, but yet, because you've got to laugh, Pastor and Lubes probably got the ripped jeans, looking like CBs, you know, preaching.
Coming out of a Lambo.
Yo, coming out of a Lamborghini. I mean, I don't. It sounds wild, but it's not much different to say like a Bishop T.D. Jakes coming out in like, I don't know, a Porsche truck with a sharp suit on and a Rolex. Like, it's just packaged different, innit? Like, and if people are looking at him and saying, right, he's managed to legitimize a way to make Christ a business, but he's using that business acumen to kind of give back to the community, like without playing devil's advocate. Even if there's some form of kind of underlying problem that's funding some of this, given how the world is, do we really care? Like, is it?
There's bigger issues. There's bigger fish to fry.
That's what I'm saying. Is there bigger things that we should be looking at, or depending on how they're getting this money, are they kind of recruiting these man to still do the madness? So basically, they've still got man on crud doing crud, but in the name of the Lord. Which sounds
mad. It's a new version of County Lines. It sounds mad, but
you're talking through County Lines.
County Lines, where you recruit young, impressionable people to do your drug running for you. So if I know you like tracksuit and trainers, like, yeah, cool man, I'll buy you that, don't worry, but just run that box over to Newark for me. No questions asked, don't look in the bag. Just drop it off. Come back. You'll get your trainers, tracksuits, no questions asked. But probably there's 2 people waiting for you in Newark to meet you up.
Right.
Then you've got to come back to me and say, I've lost this bag.
Then you
now you owe me.
Oh, so it's a setup
10 bags. It can work both ways. It works both ways. Either, and then I give you more to drop off, and then you're in forever now.
Yeah.
Basically feeding the plugs out in country.
Yeah, you're in forever now because you always owe me. Yeah, I'll give you the trainers and tracksuit just as this. All right, cool. I'm not going to beat you up this time, but you're always going to come back to me this way. And it sounds a little bit like that because if you're going to give me fancy car